Now the Devonian period is interesting for one main reason. First off, it was 419 through 359, 359 about million years ago. And this one was interesting because while the first fish appeared in the Ordovician period, the Devonian period is actually known as the Age of Fishes. That's a pretty easy way to remember sort of the interesting things that we have going on here, which is many new fish. If you could summarize the Devonian, then I think focusing on the larger diversity in fish is a pretty good way to go. However, there are several other interesting facts as well, such as first trees and forests. We talked about the first vascular plants appearing before. Well, now they develop into trees and forests. This is actually when our first terrestrial life appears. It appears, but the fish still dominate, so it's the Age of Fishes. The first terrestrial life. And I think this is when we have our first insects and arachnids. So you can thank this, you can thank the Devonian for creepy crawlies and spiders and such. So the Devonian's pretty interesting, a lot of development in life, a lot of marine life, but also the first appearance of terrestrial life and trees and forests. So that's a pretty interesting one. Maybe second to the Cambrian. Now the next one coming up is, actually this one's interesting. They're all interesting, you know. The Carboniferous period. And this one's interesting simply because here in the U.S., you may be aware of this wherever you are, but here in the U.S. we frequently divide this up into the Mississippian and the Pennsylvanian periods, which I don't want to go too far into that. Most of the world, and even in the U.S., we understand what the Carboniferous period is, so we use this a lot of times. But yeah, in the U.S. we have another way of further dividing this, which I'll make another video on, but for now, just a fun fact. But the Carboniferous itself, well, one of the easy ways to remember this is by the name carbon, because one of the big things that we had here were coal swamps. They were widespread. And carbon, you may know, is, along with sulfur, a large constituent of coal. So, yeah, pretty easy to remember the widespread of coal swamps. Not too much else interesting going on here, aside from the first reptiles. Those are the two big defining features of this time period. Once again, I'll go further into detail on the division that America makes with Mississippian and Pennsylvanian. But for now, that's a brief overview of the Carboniferous. And finally, we've been through quite a few periods in the Paleozoic era, haven't we? But, alas, it comes to an end with the Permian period. And it follows that after the Devonian, maybe about 60 million years after the Devonian, which is the Age of Fish, we would get to the Age of Amphibians, the next step towards land. So that was 299 through 252 million years ago about, and this is when we saw an abundance of amphibians. so therefore it was called the Age of Amphibians. And then, not much else really, there's not much to say about the Permian aside from, and this is a pretty big one that you'll hear about a lot, it ends with the largest mass extinction in history.